Hi everyone, welcome today. I'm going to talk about the subject of forgiveness after betrayal. It's really hard. I'd like to give you a podcast that tells you how easy it is and how you can just do it, and it doesn't work like that at all. You'll be so angry and so hurt and so upset that initially, even if you said those words that you forgive them, because say you do want to stay and retain the relationship, you won't. You won't be able to actually do it. It'll just be words. It'll just be a head thing. You'll say you forgive them, but really you don't, because there's just too many mixed emotions running around inside of you and you're still really mad with them. Don't be upset with yourself if you can't forgive. If you usually are a very forgiving and compassionate person and now the human part of you just can't do that, it's okay. It's going to take a long time to forgive them, and I think it kind of goes in layers. You'll say you forgive them, but they're just words, and then later on, as the emotions dissipate and go away, and you sort of get rid of them, and if you're going to stay with that person, or even if you're not going to stay with them, it starts to, time happens, and then you start to forgive on another level, a little bit more, and then another level, and then another level. It's really going to be something that you're going to have to work. It'll come naturally. I don't think you can naturally forgive people. I think you have to have an intention to forgive them, and that intention then has to follow through with actually doing it. To forgive means that you don't say it was all right, you don't say you agree with what they did, you don't give them your blessing for what was done. You say, what was done was really bad and I didn't like it, and I hate you for it, basically, because you just messed up my life and our relationship. But I forgive the act of what was done, and therefore I forgive you, because really what they did was just an action. They did something, and maybe that was in their character, and that's how they are, but maybe it also was a mistake that they made. For some reason they just got led astray and did something they shouldn't have done. People often work on their impulses, on their emotions, and people can also be, especially with affairs, people can be seduced. So if someone is wanting to have a relationship with you and they can see a chink in your armour, they can see you're a little vulnerable, maybe the relationship that you're in isn't going so well, they can actually push forward and seduce that person. What you did is you are responsible for, but I'm just saying that there can be other extenuating circumstances, and a pushy, seductive, very attractive person who comes into your life and offers you everything that you're not getting in your relationship can actually be the one thing that makes you fall over. If you've been betrayed, you know what it feels like. If you're the betrayer, you probably don't know what it feels like, but one day you probably will, because karma has a way of coming back. To forgive is really a great thing to do. You do it for yourself too. You do it for the other person, and so that you can let it go and let them go as the way they were. Even if you stay with them, you're still letting that all go. But you're also doing it for yourself, because when you forgive someone, you let it go for yourself and you release everything that goes with it. In forgiveness comes an acceptance. You accept it happened, you didn't like it, you've worked through the process of getting through it, you don't want to do it again, but you forgive them. And in that way, that forgiveness helps you, and you can actually move on then, because while you don't forgive someone, you kind of get stuck. And honestly, people will die and they still haven't forgiven the person, and they think it's a good thing. They think it's good that they didn't forgive them. Yet, in a sense, it holds them back in that place. They've never really moved on. They've never actually healed from it. They've never let the relationship, if they've stayed together, heal. It's like putting a knife in the relationship when you won't forgive. I remember reading an article, and this guy, I think someone had actually killed his daughter, and he landed up forgiving that person, and they asked him how he did it. And he just said every day, he said, I forgive you. And he said when he first started saying it was hollow, and he just said it, and he was still really angry and had a lot of emotion around it. But every day he just said, I forgive you, I forgive you, I forgive you. And he landed up actually being able to do it by using that process of repeatedly saying, I forgive you, I forgive you, I forgive you, which I thought was really interesting, a way to do it. If you do decide you're going to forgive them, you then have to do it. Like, you can't forgive them and then be bringing it up every 5 minutes and trying to make them feel guilty and having lots of digs all the time or being really sarcastic if you stay with them. That's not forgiveness. They're only just words then. To forgive, it means you forgive them, you let it go, you let your emotions go around it, and you say it's finished and it's in the past. There will be times when you might talk about it if you stay with the person, but mostly you don't. Once you've forgiven them, you tend not to talk about it anymore. That's how you know you've forgiven them. And you tend not to talk about it, because while you're talking about it, you still haven't got over it. That's why you're still talking about it. When you stop talking about something, you've got over it. That's how you can tell when you've got over it, because you just stop talking about it. You don't have to speak about it all the time. You don't have to bring it up. In forgiveness also comes personal growth, because it takes a lot of character to actually forgive someone. It's not easy to forgive someone. I think it's probably one of the hardest things to do, is actually to forgive someone. And the deeper and the worse the betrayal, the harder it is to forgive. However, you can do this. If the person has died and you're still holding it and you can't let it go and you don't know what to do it from another angle. You can still forgive them even though they're dead. So what you do then is you visualize that they're there and you tell them, I've forgiven you, I love you, and I have forgiven you. And that in itself will stop the karmic backlash for anyone when you do that. It'll help you and it'll help them. Because when people die, they don't really die, they just go to another dimension. And that in that way you can still reach them. So you can still forgive people who've gone and died, and that way you release it from yourself. And that's really important, to release it from yourself. So it's not something you can't do if they're dead. You've got 3 relationships that will be happening. You stay with them and you forgive them, and stop saying sarcastic things in the kitchen. You don't stay with them, and you are separated and they are apart from you, but you still forgive them. You don't even have to tell them if you don't want to, if you're that separated, but you can talk to them in your mind and tell them, I've forgiven you. And then if they've died, you can forgive them as well. If you don't forgive people, you will actually suffer. You will suffer because you're carrying around that big angry stone inside yourself, and it will colour your whole life, the way you see things. Everyone's flawed. Everyone messes up. We're not perfect down here. We're down here to learn lessons, and some of us struggle to learn the lessons, so we keep messing up. We need to be mindful of that we're just all humans and we make mistakes, and we should forgive people for the mistakes they make. It doesn't mean that we trust them anymore, and sometimes the trust is completely broken, and that's actually why you really can't be with them in the end, because you don't trust them. But that's completely different to forgiveness. You can forgive someone, send them love, and not be with them, and don't trust them. And the circle has been complete then. Forgiveness is touted down here as something that we shouldn't do as well. Some people and some families don't agree with forgiveness. They think you should harbour things and hang on to them, and that makes you powerful. But I'm telling you, it is more courageous and more powerful to forgive somebody than not to forgive them. It's easy not to forgive them, and it's all very self-righteous, etc., etc. But to step above and having been hurt so much by someone and forgive them, that is a powerful thing to do. That shows high integrity and great personal power to do that. And it also evens out everything, because in forgiving someone, you say, I could have done that. I could have made those mistakes. I could have messed up like that, perhaps. It's a way that you even everything out and balance it. It's also a way to finish it, to finish the pain of the betrayal. It ends the betrayal. When you forgive someone, the betrayal is finished now. You've got rid of all your emotions, you've processed them all, you've done all the work on yourself, you've made your peace with them, whether you stay or you don't stay. You've completely forgiven them now, and it's complete, so the betrayal's finished. And that will actually help you get into the next relationship because you're not bringing all that baggage with you. Because once you've been betrayed, you can have that baggage coming to every single relationship, the partnership one, the family one again, and friends and the business. It's a good thing to do. I think work at this one. It takes a long time. It's a long process. It can take you, years to completely forgive someone. It's not going to be an overnight thing. And it must be something that we all should be doing, I think. But it's also one of the hardest things to do, is to forgive someone who's betrayed you. You don't need to tell anyone you have forgiven them. Of course, if you stay with the person, you will tell them. But if you're now estranged and you're not seeing that person, it's just something that you will do to complete it so that you don't have to have it hanging over your life the rest of your life. So I wish you well with this. It's very hard to do. I don't find it easy, and I'm kind of a person who's really pro forgiveness and compassion, etc., etc. When I actually happened in my life with all those emotions, it's taken me a long time to forgive the person. My person had died, obviously, and the other one had died too. There were a few of them in my life, but I've forgiven both of them, and they're both. I did it like telepathically because I couldn't do it in real life because I got no closure around mine in real life, and that's the other thing. You might not be able to get closure with the betrayal in this life, and this is a way to close it by going and having a telepathic chat to them, whether they're here on the earth and you didn't get closure or whether they're dead. So see if you can do it. It's going to be for you, and honestly, that really is what unconditional love is, isn't it? If you love someone unconditionally, and you probably have loved this person a lot, and hopefully unconditionally, then unconditional love will forgive. Conditional love tends not to forgive, that's what I noticed, but unconditional love will forgive. So I'm wishing you good luck with this one, and I'm sending you lots of love and lots of light.